here we got Matt Hillier, primarily a musician, I think, but he's got some fascinating insights into what goes on around here. Now, you just said you've got a daughter called Rowan. Is it Rowan?
I do, yeah, I have a daughter called Rowan.
Well, Rowan is the tree that's planted here, and Tregerthen means land of the Rowan, and the Rowan is an antidote to witchcraft.
Yeah, that's why she was named Rowan. To give her a little kick up in life, basically. Maybe a little, little something looking over her,
And you got a bit of a history with Zennor?
I have had a studio in Zennor. I've lived down in Cornwall 30 years. I've always regarded Zennor as a kind of spiritual home in a way. I don't really know why. It's just one of those places you resonate with, you fall in love with it. I totally fell in love with it. I had a music studio for a while until the damp started eating away at the electronics of everything. And then I bailed out, unfortunately. Wish I hadn't had to do that, but yeah, and that's kind of my history with Zennor, really.
Where was the studio, Matt?
It was up in in an annex in the farm at the top of Zennor, on the main road as you come in. It's the one owned, I believe, by two brothers. It's the first farm as you come in.
It's Gear Farm, which is outside.
On the left.
That's the one that makes honey, isn't it?
No, it's not that one. No, it's literally just the first left turning before you go down to the pub.
Right.
But I had an annex out the back of that, basically, a little cottage out there, for, I think I was there for a year and a half, something like that.
And is that when you got like weird vibes around the Zennor?
Kind of like, well, no, I kind of always, I think if you kind of pick up on this stuff, you pick up on it. We used to go to the Tinners every Saturday religiously for lunch when my daughter was very young. And so I kind of built a bit of a relationship up with the place then. A place came up in Zennor for the studio, so I tuned in, moved in there, started doing a lot of work there, and I work a lot of late nights, so, you would have found me wandering around the graveyard possibly at 2 o'clock in the morning, or doing this kind of stuff. I prefer the night for creativity, generally, or the dawn. It kind of expanded from there, really. I'm not entirely sure. It's a weird thing, but I kind of, there's a bit of deja vu with a lot of people with Zennor, I think. I think they get the feeling they've been here before, or they've got some kind of association with the place. In terms of weird energy, there's a lot of it around here. I've felt very unusual energies on the coastal path about halfway along that I really can't put into words. Obviously there's the carn, which I constantly feel I'm being watched when I'm up there.
Yeah.
In fact, we even termed the old tribes up there as the Watchers.
Really?
Because I genuinely feel they're up there and they're watching down,
Yeah.
Had a lot of weird synchronicity with the carn in particular. Went up there one day, following day, it's in the main newspapers, UK newspapers, that basically, the usual story, how the devil was up there and all that kind of stuff. Following weekend, I'm walking in Trevailer Woods, and a family walk up the other way. He's a property developer, and what's the first thing he says to me when we walk up? Do you know of a place called Carn Cottage?
You're joking.
No. A week later, and I think that's the guy that bought it.
Malcolm
Possibly,
James.
I don't know who bought it, but yeah, he's a property developer in the middle of Trevailer Woods. He's like, he said, "Are you from round here?" And I said, "Well, kind of, not really, but I've been here 30 years." And he said, "Do you know of a place called Carn Cottage out near Zennor?" That's a week after I've been up there, and between the main newspapers doing the story.
Yep. That's very weird, but not surprising. I know all about the guy that bought the carn. I know that whole story, which I'm not going to go into now. But Trevailer Woods is also a bit of a spooky place.
It's a moody place. Very, very Devic energy there. A lot of Devic, Middle Earth, fairy energy there, because that's something I'm, quite aware of, shall we say.
Right.
And yeah, I thought, and I actually did approach the owners to
What, the
see if I could
Mackelbergs?
somehow black it. I thought, you know what, perfect studio.
By the Mackelbergs?
Yeah. Perfect studio for me.
Yeah. A lot of local artists had that idea.
Everyone had the idea.
I could maybe get it for 100 grand or something, but
Yeah.
there's obviously a reason why. There's a lot of interest in it. But when you go up there, when you talk about the watches, do you get that as you approach it or when you're there?
I tend to get it when I'm there. Yeah. I got it in the back garden at the Carn cottage. You see, I never picked up on any negative energy at the cottage. It's a strange old thing, but I'm quite good at being well protected in that. I don't generally kind of open up, you know what I mean? But I didn't pick up a lot of negative energy there. It was a weird kind of thing. Possibly because my original association with it was through the Sven Berlin book, possibly knowing about Brian Winter, knowing about the various things they did up there. And so I kind of came in from that angle. I knew about the Crowley story, but I kind of, I'd already kind of studied Crowley to a fair degree, more with the tarot.
You read the Toff tarot, yeah?
I kind of do use the tarot, but not an awful lot, only for personal use. But I use the Waite tarot. I do like the other one, but I kind of studied the book, and then I kind of got more into Crowley's teachings on the higher guardian angel, and not much more than that really. I'm not, I should be honest. I'm not a practicing ritual magician in the sense of I don't follow anyone teaching on ritual magic, but as with most humans, I have an imagination, so I do practice magic, I kind of, and particularly with art, it's the art, isn't it? It's a very similar thing, it's a invocation,
Well, art is really a manifestation of magic anyway, isn't
Yeah,
it?
totally, mate, yeah, totally.
But yeah, so Matt, you were just telling me that you're a Taurus.
I am indeed, 2nd of May, 1967, Summer of Love.
Where did it all go wrong?
Downhill since then, mate.
But how do you think that manifests? Because you were saying about you don't really feel that you got the Taurus grounding.
No, well, I think last time I looked at my mum can't remember what time I was born, so all of a sudden I've got to start doing. All of a sudden I've got to work it out. She remembers when I was born, being in the bed with the dawn chorus. So and she said you were definitely born
5 o'clock.
You were definitely born around that kind of time. Yeah, basically. So I'm Taurus Sun, Aquarian Moon, and then I'm Taurus again, and then I'm Gemini. I'm Gemini on the love and all that crap, which is great.
Yeah, because we're pulling birds.
But so I haven't fathomed it out. I think I'm probably quite ungrounded from the creative work and the creative process, and the certain consumption of certain things when I was younger. But I have to work with grounding. Otherwise, I'm prone to ungroundedness. Part of that is probably the good old ADHD, because everyone's bloody got that off the web now. I regard myself as the most ungrounded Taurus you'll ever meet, because we're meant to be fixed, fixed, stubborn. Yeah, maybe I am a little bit, but but yeah.
And you were saying you had quite vivid dreams as a child.
Yeah, I had a few weird experiences as a child. As a child, I was always obsessed with water gardens and with the part within a garden that I now regard as divic or fairy-like, or, you probably know it. I don't know, some people can see it, some people can't see it, just a kind of so I was always kind of tapped into that, maybe through the children's books and everything we grew up with. But yeah, I had a few experiences when I had quite bad flu when I was younger once, the proper full-blown thing where you're in bed and you're going in and out of consciousness. And I had the same thing with mumps after being vaccinated for mumps.
Right.
And both times I found myself in a liminal state, you know, maybe 7, maybe 8 years old. Found myself in a kind of state where I was in another land, but it
What
felt...
you mean, an out-of-body experience?
It felt a little bit more Middle-earthy,
yeah.
shall we say. Yeah, that's the best thing I can say, really. Felt quite heavenly, felt very familiar. And yeah, again, a kind of feeling that it's something else. It's not a construct. It's, you know, but then, you know, when you move from this reality into other dimensions of reality, you know, there's many, aren't there? You know, there's many places you can visit, you know. But yeah, got into Sufism, and through synchronicity, I got sucked into Alice Bailey's teachings,
right,
and the teachings of Blavatsky.
Yeah.
I signed up for the Arcane School. I was in the an early period of training with them, but was told I was too creative and intuitive and
not surprising,
unrhythmic for it. And I kind of related to this entirely because I'm very freeform. I'm not someone that can get up every day and do yoga and then at like 2 o'clock kind of, you know, do this or that. I tend to be much more spontaneous with spiritual practice, and it's something I do all the time in a way now with Dzogchen. I've kind of, it's happening all the time. But the Lucis Trust was very interesting, and I practiced their great invocation for quite a long period of time, involving meditation, which eventually gave me a full-blown psychosis for 3 months, involving what felt like a psychic attack of a pretty epic proportion.
Sure.
And that came strangely enough after I played a gig in San Francisco, where I synchronistically was socialising with a family of the organiser, and hey presto, in rocks a member of the Church of Saturn,
right,
who wouldn't look me in the eye, shook my hand in a way which was most definitely not one of mutual respect.
A funny handshake.
Very wary energy. And yeah, within a month I was kind of, within a month of getting back, I was kind of in a pretty weird place, you know.
Yeah.
I think I probably had 3 months of kind of
not surprising.
A lot of very, you know, I dealt with this a little bit by kind of objectifying it into fear. I kind of figured, well, you know, what it is, you know, if I oppose a fearful resistance to this, which of course I initially did, this is going to drag me further.
Yep.
So what I did is I basically welcomed it in.
Yeah.
I basically said, do your best. I got to a point where I got very tired with it because I was having sleepless nights. I was feeling constantly under attack. I had repetitive kind of words and kind of things going around in my head. Wasn't visualising things, but I felt a genuine sense that life had ended. Because I felt I'd lost my mind, but I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't want to go to a doctor. I knew that going and getting meds wasn't the answer. So I kind of stuck it out a bit. I thought, okay, stick it out, see what you can do with this. And strangely enough, at the time I was doing a course with another group called the, what were they? Oh God, I can't remember what they're called. They were based in Plymouth, and they were doing like a kind of, they used to do a meditation course.
Not like the Plymouth Brethren.
They used to do a meditation course on the Trials of Hercules.
Right.
Where you studied each one of the Trials of Hercules. And I had a mentor who wasn't, strangely enough, a long-term member of the Lucis Trust.
Well, Lucis Trust, originally Lucifer Trust, which you know, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, totally, yeah. And he basically said, I'm going to send you a book. I can't say any more than that. You probably tapped into something you're not ready for, can't deal with, or you've ripped your crown chakra. One of the things that occurred in this period was that I had to wear a hat all day because I felt there was no top of my head.
Really?
None at all. And that in itself created a lot of panic early on because I had no ground.
Yeah.
No ground whatsoever. None whatsoever. So I was walking around in a hat for 3 years.
What kind of hat was it?
Just a woolly hat, like, not a tin hat or anything like that. But anyway, he sent me a book called A Path of the Heart. He said, I'm just going to send you a book. And he sent me a Buddhist book called A Path of the Heart. And it went into a lot of detail about how spiritual awakening often involves psychosis and ungroundedness and all sorts of weird stuff. And for some reason, I just thought, okay, get out of your head, get in your heart, deal with it that way.
Yeah.
So I kind of deal with that, and the weirdest thing happened. This was at a point where I was basically kind of challenging and saying, right, okay, if you wanna take me down, do your best.
Yeah.
Because by this point, I'd learned a ground. I'd learned a mental ground because I'd studied one of the things I'd studied through Sufism and Taoism was Ajna Yoga, which is a concentration on the third eye.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for quite a few years up to that point. So I'd learned concentration, quite acute concentration. So I basically learned to concentrate in order to kind of find a ground. And then I started working with it, and I thought, okay, well, if you're the devil trying to kill me, or if you're like the lot in wherever trying to kind of bring me down or whatever, which is in a way a bit of an egoic thing, really. I feel now looking back, there could have been some paranoia, there may not have been, but and the weirdest thing that happened is that when I challenged the darker energy to do your best, if you're gonna fucking do me, you know what I mean? Because we're at a point here now where something's tried, and I haven't lost it. Yeah. Because I'm kind of coming back now. The energy just totally went away. And I kind of got a bit of a message that basically said to me, we're not here to destroy you. We actually work for the same, which again could be deception.
Yeah, we're here to test you.
Etc. But what happened is that because I'd been then by that point using Ajna Yoga to kind of exist here, which by that point I'd interpreted as the seat of the soul, the energy switched from fear into kind of a sense of like, I hate to use the term, but like being reborn again, because I'd had 3 months of feeling deathly. That's the best I could describe it. Every day felt like there was no sun at all. It was an absolute. They used to call it the dark night of the soul, didn't they? And you kind of like, but I kind of when you experience a proper one of them. Yeah, it's kind of like you've literally dug your own grave. You can't see a way out of it. But for some reason, I don't know if it was the soul or whatever, or blessing or whatever.
But it's quite empowering to overcome those dark forces, isn't it?
Well, it kind of, the weirdest thing of all is it's left me in a bit of a non-dualistic state in a kind of way, but not necessarily so. Like obviously, clearly, we live in a dualistic world, and there's a lot of bad shit going on, and you can't. I'm not in a position to kind of square that, why that exists and how that works within the greater work or the greater good or whatever you want to call it, evolution. I don't know. That's a word in itself, isn't it? But it was very empowering, but kind of quite humbling at the same time. It didn't leave me unscathed. I'm still susceptible to paranoia. Still susceptible to getting caught in duality. Because I'm kind of, I don't know if you're into numerology, but I kind of work with numerology a bit. I'm ruled by the number 2. Oh yeah. And so I get a lot of really strange. I get a lot of dualistic shit.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because only recently, my relatively recently born daughter, I have a friend who's an astrologer, did a birth chart for her, and she said, "Can you find out her time of birth?" And it was 2:22 on the in Truro, 2022.
Yeah.
She was born in 2022 at 222.
Yeah.
And I'm also well aware of the significance of numbers, all the usual ones. Like, in fact, the book that I just gave you, Zennor Spirit of Place, I did an edition of 666, really to like almost take on. People said that's really unlucky. It's like, but I've had the attitude that I know how powerful it all is, but also think if you have humour, that's one of the best ways to fight it. So like, it's almost like I've taken the challenge, and it actually sold out very quickly. So
well, it's a ground number. Like I think, like my interpretation of the 666 is that it's perfected physical, mammonistic energy, and that 777 is probably solar ascension. Maybe, I don't know. I've not really. This is the thing with Crowley, you see, because he kind of, in a way, I think he followed a crooked path of like, you can. It's like his higher guardian angel teachings. I think you can channel those teachings and kind of write them in a book, but you might not necessarily have the power to follow them. If your lower nature's strong and you like the odd bit of this and that, then kind of, it doesn't necessarily, it's like, I wanted to say, as far as Crowley's concerned, I have great respect for his teachings. Some of his teachings, some of them I don't resonate with. And at the same time, I can see the flaws of the guy. I think there's a lot of truth in there. I think there's probably a lot of blinds in there. A lot of things put in there to catch out the more egoic.
He left traps in all his rituals.
Yeah, traps in the rituals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Like the NASA one, the famous one with Jack Parsons and Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, I've not gone down the road of doing any of his rituals. It's not. I kind of.
No, best avoid it, I think.
Well, I know people that did. I knew an old tarot reader. She was around in the 60s, and she was getting on when I knew her, and she spoke about. I was studying the Thoth book at the time, and she said to me, she said, be careful.
Yeah.
And I don't advise the rituals at all.
No.
And she claimed she knew a lot of people that had been fried by them.
Yeah.
But largely because I think they've not approached it from a, shall we say, a soul.
That's right.
A soul point of view.
It's like any gift. If you use it for malevolent purposes, I have second sight from my grandmother.
Yeah. And
she made it very clear to me that you must never use it to make money.
Yeah.
So you were saying about the gypsies.
Yeah, gypsies. Yeah, there's rumour there's a bit of gypsy blood in my family. My grand's side were the Tickners, which were originally called the people of the Crossroads. The other side of my family were the Westmans from Ireland, which apparently were Nordic. But my gran, she was a Taurian. She was the 1st of May, and she was a very short lady, very fiery short lady, but she was your absolute gypsy gran. Like, she had an absolute passion for that cheap old jewellery you could buy in markets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she had a lot of qualities that I regarded as gypsy. It's like whenever you, as a grandchild, whenever we left, she would do the same thing. She'd have like a £20 note or a £10 note in her hand, and she'd go like that with your hand.
Yeah.
And then go like that, and then give you the note. And she had a lot of gypsy qualities. Like it was always joked, your grandside of gypsies, and my dad was very much like that. He was a bit of a, he's not around anymore, but my dad was a bit of a chancer, bit of a ladies' man, and all the usual qualities.
Yeah.
Like, the qualities, which I won't admit I have, but I kind of probably do a little bit, I do. But I'm very much like my dad a little bit, but yeah, so I think there's probably, if you go back far enough, I guess we're all, from nomadic.
Yeah.
Blood a little bit, but yeah.
But there is something about gypsy DNA, like we were talking about earlier. It's very difficult to deceive them, whereas they have the ability to deceive you.
I think there's a natural suspicion.
So you mentioned the Church of Satan or Set, which was interesting because obviously that's based in San Francisco, and they are all adherents of Crowley's Thelema religion.
Oh, okay.
And he effectively set up that whole system in Los Angeles, when he was there in the 30s. So he set up these churches of people like Michael Aquino, who in the military and basically it's Lucifer worship, which taps into the Lucis trust again. Alice Bailey is an extreme witch, as was Blavatsky, and the other woman, whose name escapes me, Annie Besant, which in a way links into Sufism, because funny enough, when I was on Mallorca, I was connected to Robert Graves, the great poet, who I big influence on me in terms of working through muses. He was very influential, and he spent a lot of time with a guy called Idris Shah. He was one of the main proponents of Sufism. So
that's one of the people I got into Sufism off the back of, really, purely through walking in old bookshops and finding books. This was back in the early 90s when I first started. Again, this is after I'd had the initial kind of burnout on the substances. I kind of started, looking for an answer to all this, and I used to scan all the bookshops, and there was a bookshop called the Schizophrenic Fellowship Bookshop.
Right.
And kind of, I was finding Sufi books in here constantly.
Yeah, as you would.
And then when I got tapped into the Lucis Trust, I walked in one day and I needed a dictionary.
Right.
If you ever need me to prove this, I can, because I still have it. And I ended up with an American big kind of dictionary kind of some description. And there are two words underlined in that dictionary. Mm-hmm. One of them, I believe, is magic, and the other one is arcane.
Okay.
And this is after I signed up with the arcane school. So
that doesn't surprise me.
But two words in the entire book. And that one to this day still makes me think, okay, there's clearly some method to the madness.
Absolutely. Often when you've been through some drug-related psychosis, it's those people like the 60 generation, which in a way is my generation. Then they're looking for answers, and of course they're problem, reaction, solution. So the answers are often transcendental meditation.
Often the things that
yoga, Sufism. I'm not saying those are in any way bad. But they all get infiltrated. All those movements get infiltrated. And
that's definitely what happens. And I think if you're someone that follows a thing obsessively, I think you can get sucked into a very closed-minded.
You're right.
That's the thing with belief systems. I can't lock down into one, because I can't then practice creative psychosynthesis at a personal level, and I also can't explore at a creative level. Because that's the thing, like you were saying about you go off on these threads. It's a creative process. I think if you're creatively minded,
that's right.
I think it's part of the buzz. So I kind of that's where I found myself, where I am, and I kind of I accept all teachings as valid in their own way. In some respect, I think some of them will suck you in and they'll poison you. Some of them, they might show you the darker side of things, and then you may be fortunate enough to, experience the grace of spirit, or whatever you want to call it, or, but
You are very open to mind control when you're in that searching state, which is why I think you talked about paranoia. Well, I think a little bit of paranoia is quite a good place to be, actually.
No, entirely. I don't regard it as a negative.
So
I think that's the thing with rebels, though, isn't it, Bob? It's kind of, you will not follow one thing.
Absolutely.
And you're already on your back foot with brainwashing. You know what I mean? You're already like, it's like the car salesman, the hard sell, not to get onto the subject of the great V. But it's a hard sell, wasn't it? The hard sell early on in 220, it kind of like, it's hang on a minute,
right.
and then I had a very interesting story with that one, but we can go into that at a later date, maybe.
We can do another part.
Whatever, mate.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, when you're talking about the rebel stuff, clearly, I've got my ancestor tried to overthrow the monarchy. So I've got like Rebel Not Taken, which is my art brand, but I've also got like Gypsy Blood, because my family are Romany Gypsies. So I've got that double thing where I don't trust the authorities one bit, and also having second sight. You can spot lies straight away. Plus, my father they were criminals. They're from a criminal background, so I've got all those added advantages, which I consider them advantages. Other people might think it's a bit of a harsh upbringing, but you learn. And so anyway, like my mantra is be lucky. So
Yeah.
that's often what I kind of fall back on. So
That's it, the 13th, isn't it? Well, Friday the 13th, isn't it? Today, like,
Friday the 13th. There we are. Another bit of synchronicity.
Lucky for some. Yeah. Well, I think it's my name. One of my name numbers in Julian numerology is 13.
It's 13.
Yeah. Yeah. I have weird situations with numbers.
It's a strange number, isn't it?
It's a strange. I have a weird thing with 33 because my birth certificate's number 333 and my name is 33, and I lived at 33 in Gwinear.
Yeah.
And at the time, I sold some studio gear to a guy that said, you know, because a little extension on this story is that I was looking for an alter ego, and I stumbled across the name Yakin Boaz, which I thought would be a great alter ego, which is basically the pillars of Solomon's temple, I believe. Didn't realise at the time, I didn't think about it at the time, that resonates to number 33. And anyway, this Mason rocked up and saw the email address and of course said, "Are you on the square?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, no, I'm not," because I knew what that meant. And yeah, so I have kind of strange synchronicity with that number. I see that number probably once a day, every day. I don't know why. The clock, it's always on a 33. Who knows? The best interpretation I can give is maybe I had an association with it in a previous life or something. I don't know, but it left a bit of a question mark, that one, you know.
Yeah.
But I should point out I'm not practicing. you know, with the greatest respect.
Well, wouldn't have let you in if you were.
I was going to say.
You've been hanging from the nearest tree. Anyway,
That's
Matt,
good to know.
It's been a blast. To be continued.
That's it, never to be seen.